real time whenever you are watching. It is the perfect time for you to be here. We are talking today about whether you should be satisfied with what you have. And it's a loaded topic. It's a big topic. I'm here for it. I'm excited to have this conversation. If you're joining live, welcome. Holly, good afternoon. Monica, hello. Sierra, oh my gosh. I love seeing all of you. Monica, it's been forever. It's so good to see you. We're talking today again about whether you should be satisfied with what you have. And I am excited to have this conversation with you. And what I want to know for those of you who are here live, oh, hey, Christina on Facebook. Hello. So good to see you. By the way, if you're joining on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, please comment. That's the only way I can see you're here. But I want to engage with you directly. And I just want to know right now in the comments, like, is any part of you feeling wrong or feeling guilty or feeling maybe a little bit of shame for wanting more in your life? And just, it's like full honesty in here, because that was part of my experience. And it's still something that as I rise to new levels and accomplish more, like that still pops up. So I want to know from you if that's part of your experience, because it's actually one of the hidden things that's holding you back from making more sales that you often don't realize. Tamika, good afternoon. Lisa, so good to see you. Hello, hello. So here's why I felt inspired to create this today. And I'm going to share a little bit of just what I see with the members of our community. I'm going to share a personal story, and then I'm going to share punchline why you aren't wrong for wanting more and why I don't think you should be satisfied with what you have. So, two scenarios that I see with the women who are coming into our community. Number one, they are already, by most people's viewpoint, successful and leading a life that most people would say, gosh, like, oh my gosh, I would kill for that life, right? And let me know in the comments if that's you, or if you bump up against that, people telling you like, oh my gosh, your life is so amazing. You're so lucky. You've got it made. Like, if only I could be like you, if only I could have what you have. So that's one scenario I see. The second scenario that I see is that the woman has stopped even tuning into what she wants. And it's been so long since she asked herself what she desired, asked herself what she wanted, that she doesn't even know. And let me know in the comments too, if that's you. Like, if I were to ask you right now, what is your deepest soul desire? What do you want? If you could have it any way that you want it, what would it be? Like, what would be different in your life? Could you answer that question? Could you tell me what's on your vision board? Could you tell me what's on your heart? And could you do it without any shame, without apologizing, without feeling like, oh, but that's so silly, and like, I'm also really okay with what I have right now. Let me pause and just read comments. Tamika, after listening to your series, you're talking about the YouTube, how to release resistance to what you want. I upgraded my airline tickets for my vacation to first class for the whole family. Oh, I am so thrilled that you did that. That experience, the experience all of you are going to have, is going to be so much more memorable because you said yes to that. I love that so much. That's a beautiful example of this. And this is, if either of those scenarios, and again, I want to know in the comments if you can relate to either of those scenarios, if either of those scenarios is happening right now in your world, this is truly part of what limits your sales, your results, your revenue, that you don't realize is, but it's one of the biggest things that when we can learn to release this, oh, I should be so satisfied with where I am mentality, and allow you at a deep soul level to honor your desires for more, you'll blow the lid off. Like, you'll blow the lid off your sales. You'll blow the lid off your results in every area of life. And so again, it's like, if we have a judgment on making more than a certain amount, which all of us have a certain kind of financial threshold, a financial frequency, a financial set point, you could call it. It's usually going to be within about 3 to 5% of what your parents made growing up too. So this is important to like check in and be like, am I pretty much making what I saw my parents make? Am I pretty much living out their reality? Because guess what? Most people do subconsciously, because you get conditioned to that. Let's see here. LinkedIn, we're just going to remove. That's fine. Sorry, my streaming service was giving me a notification there. But if you feel guilty for wanting more, or if you haven't tapped in and realized that you have a financial set point that you've pretty much been living up to, which is about the amount you feel worthy of making, you're going to make yourself settle for what you have. And I'm going to share just a quick story from this past weekend that was really present to me because it happened yesterday. But it's about a desire that there was kind of an emotional process that it ignited in me in the process of following it. And this is almost like, I feel like sometimes it's kind of funny as I say it, but because I never envisioned myself as wanting this. But about a year ago, I started so like desperate, not desperately, that it's not desperate energy, but like so intently wanting an RV. Now, I did not grow up with an RV. I did not like grow up with this desire for an RV. No one in my family had one. And it wasn't, it's not a necessity usually for people, but I think it was becoming a mom and starting to have this like vision of family activities and camping and having s'mores and like hiking with our family. I just started having this really strong desire to get an RV. And I kept picturing these memories that we would make in the RV and kind of went down the path of researching it. And actually, I think it was just a few months ago, I was just about to put my credit card down on an Airstream. We really thought we were going to go the Airstream path. I don't know if does anyone have an Airstream, or have you camped in one or used one? I'm curious. In the comments, let me know. I was literally waiting for the call back from the sales guy to give him my credit card. And he just fell off the face of the earth, like literally went unresponsive. And this is kind of a side note from the lesson from today, but it does have an important point. So I'm going to share it with you for a moment. What I've learned in my life is when people just like ghost and disappear, in that way, it's usually divine intervention, that it's not meant to happen that way. So I was like, okay, that's interesting, but I'm not going to get like upset about it. I'm not going to get worried about it. There must be a better way this is meant to happen. So let me stay open to what that is. So didn't really feel a strong desire to like pursue a different RV for a while. But the one thing about the Airstream that had been problematic was that we would have had to have bought another car in order to use it, because our car would not tow that beast. So I started looking at the RV knowledge I have now is ridiculous, but also small compared to what I know it will be shortly as we actually start using this thing. But started looking at what's called a Class A RV, where it's like, you see the things that are like the tour buses where like they drive themselves, right? They've got the cab on the front. That's what we started looking at. And literally, this is like a couple weeks ago, started Googling, found the perfect, like truly the perfect RV for our family. And it's long, it's 40 feet. It's got bunk beds that our little one can sleep in. It's big enough and spacious enough, like I can work in it while we travel, which is so exciting. And the desire for this thing and the knowing in me that this was our family RV, again, words I never thought I would say, but this is our family RV. It was so strong. And we found one down in Georgia, which is a few states removed from us right now. We found one down in Georgia, and we ended up like last minute last week booking tickets to fly down to Georgia and check this thing out, because the model we found, they're selling like that. It's like most dealerships have them for a couple like hours to 2 days max, and they sell. So I was like, we're going to move on this thing. So other side note on that, when you have that desire or that impulse, your job is to move forward with the next step you can take quickly on it. We flew down to Georgia, test drove it on Saturday. Jason, my husband, did a great job. It was actually like he'd been driving an RV most of his life. He did great and ended up purchasing it. And it was a very interesting experience. I actually cut the check this morning. It was a very interesting experience because, again, like that would not have been something that necessarily was done growing up. In that way. And there was a part of me that was like, it was like little Elise, right? This happens. Thank you, Holly. I'm excited too. We'll figure out how to do like a 50K retreat that incorporates the RV. It's nice, I promise. But there was our inner little child can be like, is this okay? Right? Is this okay for me to show up in this way? Is this okay for me to invest in something that's literally for the memories? Is this okay to do something that's not a quote unquote necessity, right? When it's at this level. Thank you for the hearts. And let me know if you can relate to this too, because this, at least for me, it happens every time I decide to say yes to what feels like a bigger desire at that time. There's literally part of my inner little child that's like, is this okay? And so this is part of why so much of the work that I love doing with the members of our community is that inner child healing and helping our inner, 5-year-old, 7-year-old, 13-year-old feel safe in the up level, um, because that will come up. And what happens too what I find for the members of this community is that you can have, like, when you really get in the flow with this and you really start honoring your desires and you really start unlocking your next level, things will happen fast and you can have a lot of big up levels fast. And there can be the tendency or the urge of, oh my gosh, should I just stop here? Like, should I, like, wow, I've had so many up levels so fast. Maybe I should just pause for a minute. Maybe I should just stop. And in my life personally, like I'll kind of weave in my story here with yours today, but it's all the same. Like we've, since I just made the decision in my life that like I realized I'm the only one who's going to give myself permission to go for what I want. And I'm done playing small and done apologizing for what I want. Like when you really get in that and you own that energy, thank you so much for the heart. Things will happen fast. Things will stack up fast. It's not all easy. It's not all roses and daisies. Like, have there been big challenges? Absolutely. And there's been big rewards and big exciting leaps, but it doesn't mean that I don't pretty soon after an up level have a desire for more in some way. And what I want to talk about today, thank you so much for the heart. What I want to talk about today is why you're not wrong for that. And it's not about greed. It's not about part of my pattern growing up was I would binge shop. This is not what that is. That was coming from a very unhappy, unsettled place where I didn't feel good within myself. So I would use things outside of myself to try to feel worthy, validated, et cetera. That's not what I'm talking about at all here. What I'm talking about is when you've done the inner work to really get clear on who you are and what you're all about, you will have desires for more. And when you give yourself permission to want more, and when you start to really remember who you are and what a powerful creator you are, and give yourself permission to want things and say yes to things, you will have desires for more. And it's not a bad thing. You're not a bad person. You're not greedy. It's literally part of how you're wired. But what I want to talk to you about today is understanding that at a deeper level so you can stop making yourself wrong for it and start celebrating that in yourself. Start celebrating that desire. Start celebrating, yes, I just bought an RV and now I'm excited about doing this or that, and not making yourself wrong. So let me pause and read comments. Christina, I keep stopping myself from getting a puppy. I keep asking myself for permission. Okay, here's your only qualifier of whether it's meant for you. Do you desire it? Like that is literally, thank you so much for the hearts. Hey, Charity, so good to see you. The qualifier for whether something is meant for you is, do you want it? That is it. Do you have a desire for it? That is truly, truly, truly it. And that is how you know your desires. This is part of why, like, whatever your spiritual path is, it's so important to, that is such an important part of how I live, how I coach, how I operate now, is you have to know your desires are from the divine. Like you get to trust those when it lights your heart on fire, when it lights your soul on fire. And it's like, yes, I want this. That's not your human ego energy that's wanting that. That is the divine in you that wants that. And it wants it because it's going to get to experience, again, use your language, himself, herself, itself, in a fuller and greater way, living through you. in that way. So we have to stop making ourselves wrong for wanting more. This is critical to know, because if you say, I want to make this amount of money, but there's a part of you that has a judgment on that, there's a part of you that feels wrong for it, there's a part of you that's like, I never saw anyone in my family do this. Guess what? My goal and my vision for every member of our community is you go places you never saw modeled in your family before. You do things you never saw modeled by your parents, by your caregivers, not making anyone wrong, but but you literally give yourself permission to break the mold in so many ways. But we have to be so secure in ourselves when we do that. We have to be so tuned in and tapped into what's true for us, to the fact that you are a spiritual being having a human experience, that you're meant for more, that wanting more is nothing wrong, and it's actually just part of you expanding as that divine source energy in you. And that you will have to keep tapping back into that, because you'll reach a point where you probably won't have seen anyone in your family or in your direct circle doing what you're doing. It's part of why you need to keep upgrading your circle, and part of why you got to use some of these principles that I'm going to teach today to help you almost like reassure yourself and know in your body that it's okay to want more. Coach Leia's in the house. Welcome, my love. Charity's saying, do the things we've never seen modeled. I'm here for it. Yes. And you are doing that. And I'm so proud of you for it. Christina's saying, absolutely. So here's why you shouldn't be satisfied with what you have. And I know when I say that, that may rub some people the wrong way. Let me explain what I mean. I encourage you to be grateful for what you have. I think gratitude is so important. I do gratitude every day. I think in every situation, even the situations that feel like crap, they're happening because there's something in them that's meant to help us, that's meant to support us, that's meant to teach us something. So I am all about gratitude all day long, all day long, all day long. But that doesn't mean you should be satisfied with where you are. There's a difference. And there's a term, I don't know whose it is, I did not coin it, but it's this term of divine dissatisfaction. And I love that, because I think when we can remember who we are and remember that dissatisfaction comes because you're a creator, because you're the way that you're designed is to look at your existing circumstance and to think about, how could I improve this? How could I expand this? How could I make this better? Like, that is that creative energy in you. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's a beautiful, powerful thing. And when we can remember that divine dissatisfaction, like, it's actually a good thing to want more. And it is a, whatever your language is, a worthy thing, a holy thing, a thing to be proud of. Thank you so much for the hearts. Like, the financial goal I'm going for is so much bigger than, and it's bigger than anything I know anyone who's done. And it's like, there's plenty of people out there who have done it, just not in my direct circle that I know yet. And I found when I first set this goal, I had to keep reminding myself, it is a good thing that I want this. It is good that I want this. It is good for me and for the world that I do this, because it's a blessing for everyone. So, because it can be easy to flare up those old judgments, right? Of like, who am I to want this? No, I never saw anyone in my family do this. People can get by with less, right? I can get by with less. Sure. And are you fulfilling your divine purpose when you do that? Are you able to show up and impact at the level you're being called to when you shrink back and when you put yourself in a box? No. So here's a couple things just to remember in terms of tapping into that, like that divine dissatisfaction, knowing why you're not wrong for wanting more. Though, if you look at just how the universe is wired, we are in constant expansion, my dear friend. Everything is growing, everything. So guess what? You're part of the universe. You're meant to grow too. It's not a bad thing. That's how you're wired. If you're not consistently growing, you're dying, you're moving backwards, my friend. And that's not why you're here. That's not why you were put on this planet. So when we can remember, Holly's saying, I love that, beautiful. When we can remember, like, that's how you're meant to be. You're meant to have the up level and then say, wow, that was amazing. Let me celebrate. Let me be grateful. And now from this higher vantage point, I can see more clearly. I can see more things that I couldn't see before. And there's part of me that now has a desire to experience life at an even higher plane. It's nothing wrong. It's how you're wired. So you've got to stop. So what to do? You've got to stop making yourself wrong for wanting more. And you have to know when you're in this process of the up level, like there, it will usually feel a bit scary. It will usually feel a bit uncomfortable. Like I said, I had to do some inner child like work this weekend as we purchased the RV to be like, it's okay. It's all right. Like you are, it's safe to keep up leveling at this pace in this way, to like help my inner little child know it's okay. So that will happen. It's okay when we have the tools to work through it and to know that it's just the old programming. We can work through that pretty quickly and it doesn't have to take long. And I don't want to say this too, that like that has to happen. It doesn't necessarily have to happen. That was my experience this weekend. That's often my experience as I up level. It doesn't have to happen for you. It doesn't have to happen for me. Like I'm working on, it's not even a thing for me as I go. But right now it comes up pretty periodically and I do the work and we move through it. So either way, if it's not happening for you, that's great. If it is, you comfort your inner little child and let them know it's safe to up level. And the other piece that I want you to remember is, and I would even like, I would do some journaling on this or think about it in your head, but like remembering why it's a good thing that you want more and what happens when you let yourself want more. Remembering that it's always a double blessing too. So you can write this down if you're taking notes. Your desire is always a double blessing. And here's what I mean by that. Regardless of what it is, I'll use the RV example here, but you can apply it to whatever it is that you want. In my case, I thought through this weekend too. It was like by me leaning into this and saying yes to this, not only do I get to have the experience of it, which I'm excited for, but my family gets to create so many memories that I know are going to come from the result of being able to experience life in this way and travel together in this way. I get to be more fluid and flexible with how and when I do work when we're on the road, which is going to be a blessing to my clients. The money that I'm putting into it, it's a blessing for the salesperson. It's a blessing for the manufacturer to feed their families, right? Their children. And there's so many other blessings that I don't know of yet that are going to come from it. But you can literally you can just take yourself through that process when you're tapping into your desires and when you are looking at, well, what are all the good things of me wanting more? Like Tamika, I don't know if you're still here, but like you following that desire of flying first class with your family. So many double blessings that are going to come from that. Each of your family members, like think about how you're going to up level the mindset for your children of how they travel, of what's possible for them, and how they're actually going to have a different idea of how worthy they are, which is such a beautiful gift to give to your children. And then again, we think about as we circulate and flow out more money, because often following our desires involves flowing out more money. There's more people that we can bless on the other side of that, more families that we help feed, more children's mouths that get food in or get school or get experiences or whatever. So it's a double blessing. It always is. And I want you to start practicing as you think about your goal, practicing saying, it's good that I want this. It's, again, if you're spiritual, like, or religious, it's of the divine that I want this. This is good for everyone that I want this and that I do this. This is a good thing. And when you practice that, you'll really shift into a different energy around it. And when we can drop the resistance around wanting more, that's when it happens. That's when it happens. And then if you're listening to this and you're like, I have no idea what I even want because I haven't let myself think about it in a long time, that's okay too. But it's not okay to be your norm anymore. Like if you really want to live life in the fullest, and I would journal and say, like, if I could have it any way I wanted, what would my life be like right now? If I could have it any way I wanted, what would life be like? And just take the lid off and let your imagination soar. You don't need to know how. Those are none of your details when you're in the up level, but let your imagination soar and look at what would life look like? What would be possible? And if nothing comes at the beginning, trust it will. If you keep sitting with that and just start free writing, I don't know what I want. 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 Well, one time I wanted this. Actually, I kind of want a sandwich right now. Like it starts small, let whatever comes out flow. I promise you, the ladies in this community who are in my programs who are here live can attest, when you start really tuning in, it's like the dam opens up and you'll be like, there's like 20 years of pent up stuff I've wanted in here that is now coming out. But here's the biggest thing is like, if you, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're in sales, whether you're a sales manager, if we can just realize that unleashing the vision of what's possible in your life or what's possible for your team members, what that unleashes in terms of earning ability is huge. And I say this a lot. I'll say this again. You can have the best script in the world. You can have the best process in the world. But if there's a part of you, even 1% of you, that judges your desire for more, that thinks people who have what you want are wrong in some way, you won't take the actions. You won't do the things necessary to sell the amount that would actually create that reality for you. So these are all the parts of the sales process and parts of the revenue generating process that like I just think are missing in so much of what at least I experienced coming up. And I've learned in my life, when we learn to tap into these and when we learn to be really like to stand in our worthiness and to honor our desires and say, it's good for me to want more. It's good for me to make more money. It's good that I desire this. Watch out, world, because you'll start behaving and showing up in ways where you create that in your life. And suddenly you'll be top of the leaderboard on your sales team. Or if you're a sales manager, your team will be just crushing it. Or as an entrepreneur, your revenues will skyrocket because money goes where there's a purpose. And if any of our energy is like, I don't know if this is okay, I don't know if this is worthy, it's not going to come. So that's it, my friend. I really, really hope that you enjoyed that. I'd love to know what spoke to you about this in the comments below. I'll be posting pictures of our RV, tongue twister on stories this week. And then on Instagram later, I'll do I did a whole video tour. It's fun. We get it on Wednesday. I'm super excited. So I'll be sharing some more behind the scenes of that too. And as always, if this speaks to you, I'm here to help support, whether it's, send me a DM. I'm happy to connect with you about how we can help through some of our programs or, share with a friend. Like I'm always so honored when you share this information with your community. So I love you. I'm grateful for you. I'm wishing you a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful rest of your day. Go out there. Stop making yourself wrong for wanting more. And I will see you next Monday on our next weekly sales supercharge. Lots of love. Bye for now.